Hello, my name is Jerome Dewald and I'm with the Yang Gang. I'm in District 10 in New York City, and this is a little brief video about the signature gathering techniques that have worked well for me, having been one of the top 4 signature gatherers in the state. I think one of the first things that's really important to remember is that we are gathering signatures, we're not gathering votes. And all of us are really enthusiastic about Yang and the policies and the platform. And so we are inclined to get involved in a sales pitch about Yang. And you got to avoid that. I mean, you can do that after we collect these signatures. So to get a signature, you need to get in quickly, get the signature, disengage, and get out. I've developed a script that works pretty well for me, and what I try to do is start with asking permission. So I approach somebody and I say, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, could I ask a question? And usually, it's 1 or 2 responses. Either they say yes, or it was 3 really, yes or no, or that was your first question. Usually I get permission, and then the next question is, are you registered to vote in New York? Now, it's tempting to combine, are you registered to vote in New York with, are you registered as a Democrat in New York? But when you do that, it's like if you're trying to get a date, you don't start by asking for the phone number, you work into it. So we're trying to work our way in and keep our prospect on board, happy with us, not suspicious that we're going to try to get money from them or something like that. So if you ask the question, are you registered to vote in New York? Almost everybody is going to smile and say yes, because it's like a civics test. It's like proof that they're great citizens. And now you are on board with them and they're on board with you, and your next question, which at least in Manhattan is almost always a yes, your next question is, are you registered as a Democrat? Now if you get that, you're in, you're golden. The next one is your longest, most complicated question. These other ones are simple. They're just there to engage the prospect and to qualify him in terms of being registered and being a Democrat. So the last question is, would you be willing to sign a petition to put Andrew Yang's name on the primary ballot in New York? Now, we typically, lots of people are up for that. Often what people say at that stage is, oh, I like Andrew Yang. I don't think I would vote for him, but I think he's got some great ideas. So at that stage, you are selling access. So you're not selling Andrew Yang, you're selling fairness in the ballot process. If you sign this petition, it doesn't mean that you support Andrew Yang. What it means is that his name will appear on the ballot. And you know that the landscape between now and April is going to be dramatically different. So why wouldn't you have him on the ballot so that choice is there? And I've been able to close lots and lots of people that way. Another thing is, once again, we all want to promote Andrew Yang and the platform and all that stuff. So we got buttons and hats and all that stuff. If you are working in spaces that are public spaces, or even if you're working in public spaces and you're overwhelming in terms of the Andrew Yang pitch, you're going to have some people who just look at you and move on because they get what you're trying to do and they don't have time for it. So I like to go in. I have a button on to make sure that everybody knows who I am, but it's not all over the place. And we used to have on our clipboards in the back, we used to have a lot of stuff about which to register. We helped Andrew Yang register to vote. Got myself thrown out of Trader Joe's the other day, and the manager came up to me and he said, you got that button on and you got that clipboard with all the Andrew Yang stuff on it, and it looks to me like you're collecting signatures, and the corporation has policy, and even though I might not mind that you're here, I got to ask you to leave. So what I did after that was I got rid of all that stuff here. So I got a plain clipboard. I hide it in my bag. I secure the bag. I hide it in the bag. I go through the script. As soon as I get a yes, I pull it out, get a signature, put it back. That way, especially if you're on the street, Passers-by have been approached by so many people who want to help the whales or change your electricity, and they all got clipboards. You know, they got it figured out when they see you with a clipboard that you are collecting something. So, in my opinion, it's better to keep it quiet. Get them engaged in the. May I ask you a question? No, are you registered to vote in New York? Are you registered as a Democrat? Would you be willing to sign a petition to get Andrew Yang's name on the primary ballot in New York? And at that stage, if you get a yes, you can pull it out. Also, at the end of the interaction, if you want to spend a little bit of time selling Andrew Yang, that's okay. You got your signature. The guy's enthusiastic. Give him a button or a brochure. If they're Yang curious, give them some stuff. But don't get involved in a long discussion because you've only got so many hours into the day to collect signatures, and we've only got so many days in the month to get them all collected. So while it might be pleasurable for you to engage in promoting Andrew, don't do it. Resist that. You're trying to get as many signatures as you can. So give them some literature, ask them to look them up, and then say, thank you, I got to move on, and go hit the next one. And I guarantee you will collect lots of signatures. You won't have angry people. You'll feel good about yourself because you're getting the job done. And
where would you recommend people to go get signatures?
I've had good success in movie theater lobbies, because today's movie theaters don't have very many employees on the first floor. You know, they're all up checking tickets or running the projectors or cleaning the theaters. So down where the people are waiting for someone to come and meet them, that to me, that's ideal. The problem with that, it's not a big problem, but the problem with that is people tend to stand there for a long time. And so I found myself asking the same person 3 times because I'm trying to work a small group. But what I found, another place that works well for me is the Whole Foods at 72nd and Broadway, but that's only because in this building, there's a landing on the way in and then an escalator down. And so when people come out with their packages, they tend to put them down by the door and collect themselves and get their coats wrapped up. It's an ideal time to ask them because they're already stopped. They're not moving somewhere, they're not going anywhere.
Right. So like a subway station or something like that wouldn't be ideal. But
So I know other people on our team have done really well. Taka over here has done really well at subway stations. I can only speak to my own experience.
Okay.
Anybody walking a dog, that's perfect.
Okay.
I like older people because, they tend to be involved in politics. They haven't got that much to do in their lives anymore. I tend to like people of color. I'm not sure why, but I get really good success on signatures.
What's been your response from people when you, what's the typical response that you get when you try to get a signature?
You get a certain number of people who say no and they want to move on. You get a certain, it's not a big number, but a certain number of people who are Republicans or Trump supporters. And in this case, or Elizabeth Warren supporters, and I treat them all the same. I say, I like Trump a lot. I don't like Trump a lot, but I say that because I want to disengage it. I don't want to get involved in a discussion with this guy.
Right.
And the same thing for Elizabeth Warren. I'll say that's great. I love Liz. She's my second choice. And then I try to disengage from them.
Okay. And just basically, you'll go into the ask about getting the signature on the ballot, getting him on the ballot, not that they're voting for.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah. That's it's also in terms of what are you selling? We're not selling Andrew. What we're selling is access to the ballot.
Right.
And so the pitch to the prospect you're talking to is it fair to have all the candidates who are entering the race be on the ballot, or at least the ones who are doing well.
Right.
And some people will say, no, we got too many people. I don't want to have anybody else on the ballot. And in this case, you're pretty much lost. You might just as well quit and move on. But a lot of times when you raise that, and I follow it up sometimes with the landscape's going to change a lot between now and April when we vote in New York.
Okay.
So why wouldn't you want to have the extra choice on the ballot, even if you're not supportive of them? And I've been able to turn a lot of people based on that argument. They're ready to walk away because they don't want to do it. Then they start understanding, another thing you say is, this does not mean you're voting for Andrew Yang. It does not mean you're supporting Andrew Yang. It only means that you're allowing him to be on the ballot. Wouldn't you, isn't that the democratic thing to do?
Right.
And that,
To give other people a choice.
That's right. That's right. So going back to what I said in the beginning, I think it's really important as signature gatherers, if we're going to get the numbers that we have to get, to understand that we are not selling Andrew Yang. We are selling access to the ballot. And the more we bring Andrew Yang and the campaign in at the very beginning, the more likely we are to turn off some people who would otherwise sign our petition out of the fairness question, right? Because people tend to react as soon as they understand that you don't. Andrew Yang has got up 5% recently in the Iowa poll, for example. In New York, it certainly isn't any higher. So that means 95% of the people out there are not going to be very positive to the idea that you're promoting Andrew Yang, but closer to 70 or 80% will be positive to the idea that you're promoting access to the ballot, that you're doing something civic. I got lots of people that thank me and shake my hand. They say, "Oh, thank you for the work you do."
Wow.
It happens over and over and over. But for me, I collect sometimes 100. I did 3 days in a row where I collected over 100 signatures a day, and I was getting 20 signatures an hour on average. So to get 100 signatures, I probably repeated that script word for word without variation. I would think 400 or 500 times. You just do it over and over, try to get your volume up. I even went out and bought one of those little clickers that you use for clicking the number of people in a room, so I can keep track of how many interactions do I get in an hour.
Right.
Because I know from my life experiences in sales that this is only a question of how many people you ask. I mean, your technique will determine how many signatures you get.
Right.
But at the end of the day, how many signatures that you collect is much more correlated to how many people you ask than what your pitch is.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons you can't afford to get engaged in a long discussion about Andrew Yang or Bernie Sanders or Trump or the war, the bombing in Iran or wherever that was, Iraq, I think. Any other questions?
No, you answered everything. Thank you.
So that's my experience. Maybe Helen will talk a little bit about hers because she actually does as well or better than me, and she doesn't use any of my rules. She's pretty much, so maybe these, I hope what I've said has been useful to you. It's not the only way to do it. And what I would say is practice something for a half an hour or an hour, and if you like it, stay with it. And if you try something else and it gets you better results, then go with what gets you the best results.
Great. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for being here.